Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I think we'll start the meeting actually with introductions because we have a new member. And maybe Tracy, if you want to start. Tracy Walvatney, if you want to start.
Right. Tracy Walvatney, Horseman Neighborhood Association, and citizen at large.
Denise Odegaard. I'm working with the Fargo Public Schools, the music and drama teachers with Fargo Public Schools.
Joe Williams, I live here in Fargo. I'm a muralist and digital artist.
Arlette Preston, just an interested supporter of the arts.
John Offit with the Fargo Moorhead Visual Artist, and I'm a local glass blower.
Hi. Is that on?
Yeah, why don't you give a little bit of background too, Tracy?
Is it on now?
No.
There's no light.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, is it on?
They're now on?
Yeah, just hold real close.
Okay. Sorry. My name is Tracy Jordry. I'm an architect with JLG Architects. I've lived in the Fargo Moorhead area for about 7 years now. Again, I was in Denver for about 15, but I'm originally from the North Dakota area. So it's fun to be kind of back home again. And I'm a big fan of the arts. I'm excited to be able to work with you all and have hopefully a say and a voice in our community as it develops.
Wonderful, welcome. I'm Denise Kolpak, Brand and Marketing Communications with Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Dakota. I'm a relatively new member as well and a huge advocate of the arts.
Kylie Bagley, City of Fargo Planning Department.
Brittany Rockowitz, City of Fargo Planning Department.
Nicole Crutchfield, City of Fargo Planning. Megan Elshaug, Planning Department.
John Strand, liaison from the City Commission.
All right, thank you. And welcome, Tracy. We're thrilled you're joining us. So the first agenda item is to approve the order of agenda. Motion to approve would be good, unless there's additions.
I would make a motion to approve that.
There's a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. The minutes are in the packet, and if there's no suggestion for changes, a motion to approve would be good.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Then we have communication from the Arts Partnership from Dana. And this is something that we consider every year with our budgeting process. So we won't be necessarily acting on this today, but it's good to get the request on the table so that we can consider it. And I hope that you've all had a chance to take a look at the letter as well as the documentation. And I'll ask Dana if she wants to add something to it.
Do you want me to sit there or here?
I suppose
Yeah, do you have
somewhere there's a microphone.
Yeah, sit here.
Up there is fine. Yep.
Unless do you need the screen?
Nope, I do not. Hello, I'm Dana with the Arts Partnership. Thanks for having me. I don't really have anything additionally to add. I tried to give you a comprehensive background of where we've been with the City of Fargo in the very, very long established relationship that we've had, to talk you through a little bit the probably last 4 years, which have been pretty transformational in terms of how we have managed and operated the grant program, and to just give you a sense of what we do with that money. So I'm really happy to just answer questions if you have additional questions versus talking you through documents that you've maybe seen for a while.
Maybe let me just step back a little bit, and I apologize. I probably should have put this into context for those of you that are a little bit newer to the commission. The City of Fargo allocates or has allocated a certain dollar amount every year to be re-granted by the Arts Partnership. And to give you a little history, there were numerous arts organizations that were coming to the City Commission, specifically to the mayor, back, I don't know, in the 90s. And it got to be kind of overwhelming for the mayor's office to deal with those and figure out how to handle them. So that's when it got transferred over to one of the committees. And then when the Arts and Culture Commission got established a few years back, that was then transferred to us. So basically, we give money to the arts, the city gives money to the Arts Partnership, who then turns around and calls for proposals from the artist community, and it's all arts organizations, right?
All organizations,
Yeah.
primarily arts organizations or organizations who want to use art to make their mission more concrete. Those are project grants, and arts organizations get general operating support grants.
Okay. So, looking through the documentation, does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment, though, as a recipient of the grant, one of those grants for a nonprofit that I run called the Learning Bank. And just to show you the effect of what that grant does, we have, we set up performances, fine arts performances, the symphony, jazz arts. We have cultural things. We have Steve Stark talk about the history of North Dakota. One event per grade level, and so each grade, we probably run 2,500 kids through whatever event that we have. And the kids are loving it, the teachers love it. It's a great way to expose kids to the arts and for them to get a taste of it, because some kids will never, ever go to some of those things unless that was provided for them. So it has a huge impact on the future, too. So thank you for the support for that.
Any other questions or comments?
Chair, I have a comment. I appreciated the kind of the diversity and, certainly the focus on art, but the way that this was laid out, and it seems like, for a relatively small amount of money, it's touching a lot of different art organizations, so I really appreciated this approach, having seen it for the first time this year.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. My Director of Operations works hard on that.
Yes.
Okay. So Dana, let me just tell you the process. We are actually finishing up on our work plan this afternoon, hopefully, we'll finish it. And then out of that comes our budget. So we will communicate back to you as soon as we know exactly when and where and how this will be dealt with.
Fabulous. I brought a few annual reports for anyone who's interested. This is the 2017, and there's a supplement for 2018. So I will leave these in Nicole. If nobody picks them up, I'll get them from you, if that's okay. Thank you. Thanks for your work.
I have one additional question. The $112 from last year, what percentage of your annual budget was that?
That ends up being about a fourth.
Okay.
And maybe if I could ask another question. So the 112,000, and you're proposing 78 for next year, 70%. Do you know what the total was of the Fargo, the 112,000 that actually went to re-granting in 18?
You mean to Fargo organizations?
No, I'm sorry, the Fargo dollars, the 112,000?
The same amount. 78,400
So it was 70%.
went in, has gone for the last 2 years.
Okay,
That's the lion's share of the grants that we end up giving out.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The capital improvement, and I hate that title. It's a capital project. And I think probably everybody might remember that what we're talking about here is the capital dollars that have been allocated to a public art project, which is different than and separate from our annual operating budget. So we have some dollars on the table and then have had some conversations with CVB. So Nicole, were you, I can't remember who was going to be talking about this one.
Sure, maybe just a quick update. Hopefully this is what we're going to talk about. Just as a quick update, we are, have reached out to the CVB to talk about a kind of a stakeholder meeting, inviting members from our community to have kind of a larger roundtable on what possibilities might exist, and looking to hire a facilitator to help us through that conversation and think creatively and invite many folks just to start the conversation. And then I think the exciting part of it is that it's undefined, as an outcome. And so trying to get the stakeholders around the table to start to think about that outcome, and then we can design a process, whether it's that RFP or inquiry, commissioning, there's a number of different ways to engage public art, as we all know from the Public Art Master Plan. And so really just start with that first broader conversation beyond this table. I think that's going by Chair Preston's thoughts and leads and initial conversation. So we're hoping to we've got some requests out there for proposals for facilitation, and as soon as we get that response, we can start to schedule that date, hopefully before Christmas, having that larger roundtable as at least the first step.
So to emphasize this, we have our process basically in place for our annual operating budget dollars for those projects that are coming in requesting dollars from our annual budget. This is kind of a separate process. It's possibly a much, well, not much, but a larger project. And so it's a slightly different process than what we've used for the other dollars. So some of it is learning how to go about this, and how much direction we want to give to the artists that might ultimately come up with a project. It's also an opportunity to start developing some of those partnerships with other organizations and artists in the community, as well as starting to raise the awareness and the capacity of our artist community to actually do public art, because there's certainly different skills and expertise that's required for doing something in a cold climate such as ours gets sometimes. So any questions or comments? Just an update there. All right. The next item, City Hall art. I don't know if you've all been over to the new building. Yeah. Have you been able to see some of the art over there? There's a lot of good art hanging on the wall. And if all of you might remember, we've had some discussion in our work plan for this year in regards to actually curating and getting those, getting pieces of art up in the City Hall. And they have already been done. So I guess let me just open this up for discussion in regards to what we would envision our role to be in that. And I would suggest perhaps that we just send perhaps a letter to the mayor saying, wow, it looks great, I love it. But to also remind him that we exist and that our expertise is art and culture, and encourage our expertise to be used. So let me just open that up. Feedback.
I like the idea of sending a letter to the mayor.
Okay. Part of this is just to, because we're fairly new, just to remind city employees as well as elected officials that we exist. And that we have an expertise that might be of some value to the process. Yeah.
Would we want to include some of our most recent projects, like the train wrapping and the electrical wrapping, the artwork on the
Sure.
outside? I mean, so if we
Sure.
kind of list some of the things we've
Yep.
done, you may have noticed we have
Yeah.
these things in town.
It's kind of
And
a,
maybe some of our future goals.
yeah, kind of a reintroduction of who we are and what we're doing, and yeah, I think that would be
Would you
great.
send it to the mayor for him to share with people, or would you send it also to the commissioners? And I mean, do we just want to share that information with a lot of people?
Any advice from that corner?
I'm reading into your comments some disappointment in how it unfolded. And I'm led to assume that there was maybe on the parts of the Arts and Culture Commission, and maybe rightfully so, a desire to be more involved in the art aspects of a
Yeah.
new building project.
Yep.
And I remember wondering that, but it seemed like there was a line drawn in the sand that this art will be done by staff. And I don't remember the details, but I kind of remember that sort of happening. And I think it's a valuable discussion because there's a lot of entities out there that need art as well. And to further establish your role as the advisors when you can be. Absolutely. And I don't know if I'd ask for a discussion, not just send a letter, but ask for an opportunity to sit down and brainstorm
Okay.
and acknowledge, your roles and clarify your role going forward, like curating the City Hall project. And, but that gives you a good leverage point to move forward a legitimate
Okay.
discussion, I would say.
Yeah. And I think the intent here, and just to let the commission know too, would not be to be critical of what has occurred, but more in regards to just reminding that we're here, basically, and what we're here for. So, okay, we'll keep that additional piece in mind.
And if I can help coordinate, maybe we work through Kember, that might be the initial thought, is to have an outreach to Kember, just saying, we'd like to have a visit. If
Okay.
it's more in the form of you just notify it, notice it. If it's just your executive committee or however you choose to do it, then I can work with Kember to make sure this happens as well.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd rather see you discuss it in person and have your hand deliver your whatever you're handing at the time, but
Okay. Okay. Anything else on that topic? The next item is the communications plan, and Denise has done a lot of work on it. It looks great. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it to you beforehand, so you may not have had a whole lot of chance to see the final product, but it's about 3/4 of the way into your packet. And maybe, Denise, would you want to just walk us through it again? And
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So I incorporated, this is the second time we've taken a look at this draft report. We did it a couple meetings ago, and then I incorporated the comments from that discussion into this and updated it in a few places. You'll see when you get to the back that there are some tactics with a lot of TBDs behind them, and I'll just, maybe for context, my recommendation when I sent this to our chair this morning was that now we sit down with some staff and walk through, assignments and dates and really have a working session to fill in some of this, because I certainly don't presume to know everything that's underway and what the opportunities are. But it begins just some overriding communication goals here of what are we trying to do in our communication approach and messaging and tactics. And a lot of this came out of the work plan and the strategy documents and the articles and bylaws that I pulled it out of. Then, you'll have time to take a look at this, right, Chair? After today's meeting, you'll have some time to spend with this. And then we identified the audiences, obviously starting with the general public. An important segment, our area artists, the Fargo Business and Development community, the media, obviously, key stakeholders, and then a number of city agencies and commissions and service clubs. The communication principles are how we want to kind of approach this, and it's very important that we're proactive and transparent and where we can be, and that we're timely and engaging. So that's pretty straightforward if you want to turn the page. Any questions on page 1? I didn't go through all of it, but so the key messages are there on the top of page 2 of 6. That we exist to promote public art as a catalyst to improve Fargo's quality of life for all citizens and visitors. Events and programs are intended to be enjoyable, engaging, and inspiring for all citizens. Robust public art can help our community continue to evolve, adding new diversity and art perspectives. That was one of the discussions we had in the first round where I made that change, taking your input and added the idea of diversity and evolution there in different perspectives. And then it's committed to fostering public and private partnerships. So, we can work those in, and you can either literally use these messages, as they are, or they're the ideas you want to, in your own words, instill into whatever the appropriate channel and messaging is at the time of the communication. Then this draft tagline, this was a great discussion last time, so we shortened this a bit. So uniquely committed to Fargo's community to bring art to life for all. We had to enjoy, and then it was a great comment. We removed it because it's, you may or may not enjoy it. It's still art, right? I mean, it's inspiring. It was a very good discussion. And then I kind of explained in this tagline what are the nuances of being unique of the commission, and then there's a double entendre here about art to life. Then the elevator speech is meant to kind of summarize what we stand for, but again, this is just, and I did take your edits and thoughts from our first discussion and made some tweaks to this. Again, the idea is that you take these key points and you turn it into your own language. Did I have a typo there? I see a correction over there. No, Denise?
No, I'm just
okay.
circling some keywords.
Okay, great.
Just doing
Thank
some
you.
homework.
Thank you. And then I added a few Q&A, but this Q&A should grow and evolve. Probably after our work group meeting, we'll think of some others. As you get questions from the media, this should continue to grow and evolve and kind of become a repository. It's nice to have FAQs on the website and other places. Added the website address and the Twitter handle. Thank you for sending that. And some ideas of measure of success. Again, the work group can really, once we get through, I think, the strategy and the work plan for this year, I think we could really come up with some true metrics here that, what will be our successful communication for the year. And then again, then we get into the tactics. So there are tactics by audience, starting with the media, because I know Arlette's already been out there, and with, and you were going to share the presentation as well, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll talk about that later.
Got it. But there's already been some contact there, but, it's a good place to start with the media for initial exposure, right? And then the idea is you just continue to build this out and update each year once you have a structure in place and what works, what doesn't, do an analysis. The next group here, the public and area citizens, then the artists, the business leaders, and the developers, because that's kind of a subset and a stakeholder group also. And then I ended with more all of the work that was called out in the first communication plan about all those groups that we want to get in front of and share the information in a consistent way. Similarly, the presentation that Arlette has put together as kind of a foundational start, we're really, having a drumbeat of the progress of this group. And then, and the other idea is that as even, the completion of the installation of the art in City Hall could easily be a press release, and maybe it already has been, right? But that could be an earned media opportunity.
Yeah.
That could be signaled, and you have some earned media and discussion, whether it's part of an editorial board meeting or it's just, a press release alerting that this project's complete and then reminding them of the role of the commission. So that's the idea of really being proactive and transparent and looking for those opportunities. And then the last thing is, and I would say probably coming out of the work group, I would like to see a digital media strategy subset come out of this that, the commissioners could use and leverage. I mean, the members of this commission could leverage and start to build that social community and take advantage of those channels as well. So it's a quick run through. Maybe turn it back to you for next steps or discussion.
And I have to apologize to Denise, because and when I looked over the minutes again, I realized that we had talked about sitting down with the communications director here and talking with Nicole. The only piece of all of this that person might be interested in seeing or overseeing would be the digital
Absolutely.
Piece. So that's why we thought we could go ahead with a communication plan, and then at some point, when we have more definition to what we would like to do with the website and or Facebook and or Twitter or whatever, we could sit down with him. Questions, comments?
Is City Hall up and running now? Have they moved over there?
Yes, I think
Okay.
everybody has moved.
Yeah,
right?
so we're all over there in terms of staff. I think they're going to do a public opening, grand opening, and it's supposed to be October, but we're in October, so I don't know when the date is. But there's going to be a kind of a big public open house, if you will.
So have we done a news story on the art on the outside and inside?
On the outside, we have. On the inside, I don't believe we have yet. And maybe just a point, too, going back to the previous item, as you get your communications plan confirmed, that'd be a great talking piece when you meet with the mayor as
Yeah.
well. Because
Yeah.
I think maybe just to couple a little bit on how the city communications works. So, we're an umbrella, of course, of the City of Fargo brand and communications. And so our communications manager, coordinator, Greg Schilberger, all press releases, all communication out goes through his office. And so, as well as
Sure.
any policies. So a lot of times we'll draft stuff, send to him, and then he releases it. And so we do have a kind of a chain of command or process, but we have pretty free liberty to say what we want to say related to the programs we operate. And then other policy, then we have, kind of governing policies related to social media, et cetera.
Sure.
And that's where it gets a little tricky, only because of the security and firewalls and all that stuff where I'm going to get beyond my knowledge set. And so, but that would be good discussion, because this commission's not alone in terms of trying to get more communications out there in terms of and relevance in our public.
So if we want a press release done, do we draft it and then send it to the person? Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
we just have
staff,
to keep in
and
mind.
staff becomes that liaison for you, so you don't feel like you have to communicate directly with Greg. We do that with our office. Each department has public information officers that are trained in that communications, and so we use our internal PIO and then go through Greg as part of that.
And in regards to the current art in the city hall, I'm assuming we have to be considerate of the fact that the mayor's office and/or whoever made the decisions about that art would probably be the generator of the press release and.
Possibly, or they might want some support or assistance
Okay.
in that.
Okay.
I think, from what I understand on the city art, a lot of it had to do with under the contract of the architect and the building itself.
Okay.
And so it'd be good to consult with the architect,
Okay.
I'm assuming. And that's where we'd want to check on that flow of communication because, obviously the architecture team had some design input there. And so, but yeah, I think, I'm sure the mayor's office would be all for amplifying that message.
So, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of visual art in the new city hall. Do you have any plans to include other art forms for the grand opening?
At the staff level, we have not had that conversation. I don't think it's too late to have that conversation, so that's a good comment.
There is a bison, right?
Inside, yeah.
Yeah, inside, yeah.
Are you talking other mediums or other arts?
Other mediums? There should at least be music,
Yeah.
if
Well,
not a
yeah.
reading and.
Other arts. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you want music, let me know. I mean, if you can give me a date when this is going to happen, I'll find some music for you.
That'd be great.
Would this event take place during the day or at night? All day and all night?
Probably the best thing to do is I'll take your comments to our our mayor's office. I have no idea, and bottom line is I have no idea, but we'll take this feedback and bring it to them and find out.
Sounds good.
Madam Chair, just one thought I had after learning more about the protocol and certainly being respectful and understanding the need for that and just want to be supportive in every way. So perhaps that can be part of the discussion if we do a work group, right, is to really outline and understand what that is so that
Okay.
we're very clear that we do not want to infringe on anyone else's,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
make, just so we're all understanding it the same way. That would
So
be
you're saying to add that to the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, but as a staff, this is excellent. We're excited about this. It's certainly a big help and look forward to working on it.
Great. Thank you.
So let me also, there have been two kind of presentations that have been developed, and I apologize, I am not that good at digital stuff. So I have an Apple computer, and being able to get it, well, first of all, the file was too big. It wouldn't get emailed. And then I had trouble getting from an Apple computer to hook up to a presentation setup. So what I will do next month, probably at our meeting, is bring the two presentations. One is a much shortened, and in fact, we have met with the Forum editorial staff, which ended up being 3 people, I believe, 4 people, and basically gave them a lot of background in regards to how we got formed, what we've been doing, and potential projects for the future. Very interested. They had the feature, lifestyle feature writer, reporter in the editorial group that day. So he was taking lots of notes, and I'm assuming probably something might come out of that. Also met with the HPR staff and spent over an hour talking with her, doing the same, giving her background. So, hopefully, and the purpose of all of this is more to lay some groundwork for understanding and awareness, so that the media know and understand who we are and why we exist. And then the Fargo Youth Commission actually had a meeting, I don't know, about a month ago, close to a month ago? Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks. And they had invited us to present to them because they're interested in doing an art project. So I used the longer presentation with them. It's about a 20-minute, actually, presentation. So I'll bring both of those next meeting. And we are actually scheduled for one service club in November. So the intent here is to open this up to anybody who's interested or willing to come along and do those presentations. You'd always be paired up with someone like myself who's got a lot of history with this, or a staff person that's got a lot of history with it. So as we move forward, you'll be getting those kinds of requests in your email. I think we've kind of jumped ahead a little bit with some of this, even though we have not adopted the communication plan. But I don't think there's anything controversial in the presentations or anything that would be of concern. So hopefully that's okay. And we really have a lot of ground to cover to try to raise the awareness in the community. So,
would it work to put the presentations in a Dropbox and then share that link with us?
Yes, it does work in the Dropbox. Yes, I have figured that one out. Yeah, we could share that with everybody.
So if you could share it with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, and then maybe we wouldn't actually have to do the presentation here either. Although if you all wanted to kind of see how the presentation flowed, so that you're more comfortable in helping with it, we could do that too.
Have you put any notes, like in the...
No, I have not.
If somebody were to be doing the presentation, and you weren't there, or somebody else wasn't there, if we had notes in there, would that be helpful? Or you would rather have...
Maybe you want
somebody
to
with
take a
experience
look,
doing the-
because the way I built the slides, it might be okay to have a little bit of narrative with it, but they're really self-explanatory.
Just some background or specific things that you want us to...
Yeah.
Make sure we say, or...
Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at that again, too. Or, actually, when I send it out, if you have some places where it doesn't make sense, or you think some additional information would be helpful, that would be good feedback.
Do we have any tangible materials that explains the Arts and Culture Commission?
Good
Are we
question.
leaving things behind with the forum, with Sabrina?
We did particularly for these, but now when we get to the service club, that's probably, I don't know, if Do you think that document is going to be appropriate for the
No,
service?
probably needs to be
Yeah,
abbreviated a little bit more even.
more like a brochure of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
We have a 2-page, actually it's 4-page, 2 back-to-back pages that we use for like the forum and HPR. But that's probably got too much verbiage on it for like a service club presentation. We'd need something a little more abbreviated, I
A
think.
one-page thing.
Yeah.
Even just
With more pictures.
a one-page with our logo on it, so they actually get
Yeah.
a tangible thing to,
Yeah. Maybe if I could work with staff and we could try to come up with something, that would be great. Good point. Okay, so I think what I would like to propose is that we actually adopt this communication plan. So if you're comfortable with that, a motion to adopt would be good.
I'll make a motion, but then to add what you were going to, the communication coordination piece.
Is there a second?
second.
Any more discussion? Yeah, Jeff.
I just have a question, Madam Chair, with regard to social media. Last week, we were in a meeting with the governor where he strongly challenged Fargo to get, for example, really active in Instagram. So if you're going to have, when you do carry this conversation forward to our communications director, because I'm guessing, my sense is other commissions and boards are working through this issue of social media too, like the Native American Commission, and I'm not sure about the human relations, but so you might, and maybe there's some creative opportunity with Instagram and artists out there in the community where we can put our heads together and get people covering things artistically and get it blasted out through social media, through artists. But
Sounds great. All right, so the motion is to approve the communication plan with one addition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, sounds great. Thank you again, Denise, and maybe the next step then is to try to set up some time with some of the appropriate staff to kind of...
Yeah, I'll find the date of the open house, and then, so we'll do that, and then we'll start to get a meeting
Okay.
figured out with the mayor and Greg and
Okay.
the city administrator.
Sounds good. All right. So the next item is the work plan discussion, and maybe we can just walk through the final documents in the packet here. This is the first sheet, the first page, actually the first 2 pages, are kind of a documentation summary of the work that we did at the workshop prior to or after our meeting, prior to our meeting last month. So if you remember, Nicole was up at the whiteboard, and we had come up with some potential larger categories. And on the second page, you'll see those: evaluate, new ideas, outreach, funding, and growth. So between the staff and myself and Deb, we took some time to take a look at those categories. Would all of the action steps that we did not complete from last year, and then pulling in all the action steps that had been identified in the master plan for this year, would they all fit under those categories? And they really did. I mean, they fit really nicely. So what the staff did then, and starting with, again, the green-topped page, the staff took those categories, and you'll see kind of, I would suggest you ignore the first column to some degree, because what we're doing is kind of reformulating the master plan so that it's a little bit more workable and it makes more sense for what we're trying to do this year. So, but you can use that for reference if you want. So it's the second column that are the 5 different categories that we kind of developed. And then they filled in the action steps then that relate to those categories, and then started to try to identify some of the resource needs that were aligned with those action steps. And you'll see some of the resource needs are, well, quite a few of them are blank, and then the financial needs are blank, and the priorities are blank. So the reason the resource needs are blank is that it's a little bit difficult up front to kind of determine, and by resource needs meaning staffing resource. It's tough, a little bit tough to figure that out from the initial description, and until you get into it, it's probably hard to figure out, is it 5 minutes here, half hour there? So it's a little bit hard to determine that. Financial needs, hopefully that'll become a little bit more clear as we talk about priorities. So, I don't know if you've all had a chance to take a look at this. Any questions or comments about how this was organized?
I'm just wondering if some of the abbreviations could be the real words, and like, I'm just looking at page 2 of 2, like CIP and CV. I know CVB is Convention Visitors Bureau, but I don't know what some of the acronyms are.
Okay. Sure.
It's just maybe not knowledgeable.
No, that's great.
I don't live in the world of some of these, so,
Yep. That makes sense.
but I like the format of the work plan.
So what I would propose that we do for the rest of the time here, in the next 15 minutes or so, you'll see there's a bunch of index cards taped to the wall. We're going to adjourn the meeting and then just move over to the wall. And what I would like the group to do is prioritize those action steps so that we get a sense of, when we actually talk about staffing resources and financial resources, what would be our priorities that we'd really want to make sure we get done in the next year. So we will continue our work over there, and because the microphones aren't over there, we will adjourn the meeting unless there's additional, well, actually.
I have one more question. You know, under the financial needs, do we have like a budget in this? We don't have a budget in here, right? Or
Okay,
is that-
so the ultimate outcome of this is to develop a budget.
Okay.
And that's why trying to identify the financial needs will be a piece of that. Any other questions? Okay. So, any other public comments or anything? Okay. So the next regular scheduled meeting is November 14th, same time, 5 o'clock. Will we still be in the same place, probably?
Probably.
We don't get to move to the new building?
Not yet, apparently. So if we're still here, that means City Hall probably hasn't been completed and the opening day or the opening celebration has not been done.
Probably, yes. That might be a good assumption.
Yeah. All right, so a motion to adjourn would be good.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sounds like you guys want to stay for a longer meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.